Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's last webinar session of our DevOps Transformation webinar series. This one is on the business case for DevOps. My name is Alexander Mazurek with Quint Wellington Redwood, and I'll be your host today. Now, for those that are new to us, it's an introduction to our company, Quint Wellington Redwood. We're a completely independent management consulting firm. We've been in business now for close to 25 years now. We'll be celebrating that milestone next year. But we started in Amsterdam, but now we've expanded to be a completely global company. We have 250 consultants operating in 49 countries, just about every single continent around the globe. Our core business practices include sourcing, architecture, governance, lean IT, service management, and DevOps, of course. We're very proud to say that we've been listed as the top global advisor on sourcing and governance by the IAOP the last 3 years running. We were given the highest possible ratings in the areas of client satisfaction, delivery of excellence, and innovative programs. Very proud of that. And last off, we like to be considered a trendsetter in the areas of IT service management, lean IT, and DevOps, of course. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this is the finale of our DevOps Transformation webinar series, the business case for DevOps. Over the course of last week and this week, we covered all of the subjects that you see here and as a series. And if you registered for any of these webinars, there'll be a follow-up in which we'll send the recordings in its entirety for all 4 sessions to you, so you can view them all if you happen to miss one or you'd like to watch them in chronological order. We'll have that sent to you. But today, we are obviously covering the business case for DevOps, and we hope many of you are interested, and that's what we're doing today. I want to introduce our speakers today. As I mentioned earlier, it's Niels and Frederick. The middle guy, Alex, the other Alex, he was featured on a few of our other webinars. We're doing 2 at a time with these guys. To do our finale today is Niels Loader and Frederick Schucken. Thank you again for joining us today, guys. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. And thank you all for joining this webinar. Thank you for the ones who have been keeping up with us through the whole series. And to everybody that is new, don't worry, because today we are going to talk about the business case for DevOps. And equally, it could have been our first webinar in this series, because it's a major topic. And today we will focus on the benefits and the cost of DevOps, how to achieve those benefits, and of course, how to limit the cost involved. But in truth, when we were discussing this 4th topic, we had quite some doubts. Well, I had some doubts about why should we talk about the business case. Everybody knows about DevOps, the positive business case that is involved with DevOps. So Niels, why spend an entire webinar on this business case issue?
Yeah, well, before we get into that, I think it'd be cool to do a little poll to see whether anybody else agrees with you in terms of saying, well, you need a business case for DevOps. Alex, could you fire up the poll for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So here it is, guys. Just for the sake of conversation, we'd like to see if you already have a current business case for DevOps, or if you're developing one. We'll give you 30 seconds to answer here, and we will cover that here in a minute. All right, we're at 40% of the attendees have voted. We're sitting steady at 52, 56. Okay, so the results that we are seeing here are... Let's see if I can put it up on the screen for everybody to view. All right. So like we thought, if you're viewing this webinar, the overwhelming majority seem to have not started. Looks like some of you have started, maybe looking for some guidance. And looks like a good amount of you actually have started. What do you guys think about this?
Yeah, well, at least for more than half of the population, we hope to provide you with some good input to create your own business case for DevOps, and particularly for those of you who've already started. Well, let's look and see whether we can help you to enhance the way you're either tracking it, or maybe give you some pointers as to what kind of things you could be looking at. It's looking good.
And we could also entertain the thought that 53% did not start this. Maybe for them there is no positive business case in DevOps. But if that's true, then I wonder what you're doing in this webinar, but that's a whole different So Niels, yeah. Why business case? Why should we talk about a business case? Because we all probably know the State of DevOps report from Puppet and all the amazing things that DevOps can bring to the enterprise. So seems like a no-brainer.
And I think, you know, a lot of people have know these numbers by now. I mean, Puppet Labs have been stating these kind of fabulous improvements for the last, what is it, 3-4 years now, and they're phenomenal numbers. And you know, there are certain organizations who are actually doing this at the moment and are achieving these numbers, and for the rest, it's really a promise that they're looking for to say, well, okay, you know, and I would like to see this in my organization as well. And you know, especially if customers are starting to see these kind of numbers, they're going, you know, why is the organization doing this as well? So this is really where we see a kind of disconnect happening in terms of saying, okay, well, I know this is possible, but how do I get there? And it's really kind of an interesting thing, because we see, you know, the large scale societal change that's actually happening now, which is our movement as IT organizations from kind of mass production, where we're looking at you know, specialization and coordination as the primary characteristics, and we're moving more towards lean kind of production methods with generalized specialism and team collaboration as the core aspects, and this is what's providing us with these you know, fabulous numbers. But yeah, it's about moving towards this emerging and future mode of operations for IT organizations, and how do we go about it?
Yeah, and basically these numbers, I mean, they're fabulous, but this is sort of a one end of the spectrum, and if you're on a road in your own DevOps journey, then I think for me, most organizations I know and I work with are nowhere near this kind of capability. No. They're on a road going there, and their improvements are a lot less. Yet they all strive towards these kind of performance.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're seeing is you know, really the benefits that everybody's looking for, and this is the kind of business case that people are looking at. You know, we're providing more business value more quickly at a higher quality to our customers. You know, when something goes wrong, we've got this fabulous response, and we're able to solve our incidents more quickly. The processes are fabulous. There's less waste. There's less overhead necessary. We've got these people who are engaged, you know, who are fully, you know, 24/7. This all comes at the same and lower cost. And you know, but is this the reality?
Well, to me, if I look at my last project I did with DevOps, then one of the first things we noticed is this more engaged people. I mean, we were only a bit faster, maybe a bit better, but we had also kinds of problems. But if you look at the people within IT and the organization involved, their sense of purpose and the way they are able to choose their own way of working and to be autonomous and things like that really engage them with their work in a whole new way that we never seen before in this company. So that was one of the first signs that we were getting slowly to reaping the benefits. That's a good sign.
I agree. I see the same thing in my most recent project. That so automatically brings with it this intent to deliver more customer value, to do things more quickly, and it's a sense of purpose that you see kind of appearing and developing within these DevOps teams. So yeah, I can agree with you on that one.
Okay.
But yeah,
with a business case, there is always a benefit, but of course there's always a price to pay. So focus on that. I mean, what are the costs of trying to achieve all this?
Well, yeah, initially you see that people don't really know what they're doing, and they're spending a lot of time understanding the change they're going through rather than spending all that time on creating functionality. And as they learn, we get all kinds of disruptions. People make mistakes, obviously, because this is a new world they're coming into, and our customers aren't always as understanding as we'd like them to be. They can obviously see from these Puppet Labs numbers what they can aspire to and what they will be getting in the future, but it takes a little while to get there. And this is an area where we're seeing a lot of teams starting to become uncertain. We're seeing people become uncertain about what their roles should be. We've got a whole pile of roles that are in fact disappearing. Things like service delivery managers, project managers, ITIL process managers. These are things that cause people to have huge doubts about what they're doing.
Yeah, and that's not only for the people who would like to have the benefits, or maybe on a business side, but I know one story of a product owner I did some coaching for, and he was lured into this product owner role, and we're going to do Agile, we're going to do the Scrum way of working, and we're going to move to DevOps, and this is what DevOps is all about, and this is the business case, and then he took on the role as a product owner, and then he had to explain to all his stakeholders all the mistakes that were made, all the things that went wrong, all the time the team wanted to spend on technical debt reduction and things like that. And well, probably this was not what he had in mind taking on this role as a product owner. And later I talked to a colleague of him who was a service manager, and the service manager said, well, he should have asked me. I mean, I'm used to these kinds of messages. I know how to sell that. But
yeah, welcome to my world. Yeah. So there are a lot of things that they kind of come back, but in slightly different formats, and we do need to look to the things that we've done in the past to learn how to be more successful in this new way of working, because there are things that are really substantially different.
So basically, we have this business case, and well, we all know the benefits. I mean, we can read about them, but these costs are more hidden, and sometimes they're not as obvious as the benefits. But how to mitigate these costs, and what to do to make sure that you don't derail your change movement, if you will, by having too much of this?
Yeah, well, there's basically three things that we need to focus on. Understand where we're going. Obviously, we need to have our benefits. If we don't have these benefits clear that we're heading towards, then the chances of you being successful will be kind of small. But on top of that clear understanding of where you're going, you really need to have really three things in place. And first you need to know where you're starting from. The second is you need to know what your plan is to transform. How are you going to go about getting there? And third is to understand how you're progressing. Where are you in this transformation? And really, these three things are in fact probably more important than having this fundamental business case of benefits and costs. It's all about the execution of getting this business case to actually work.
Okay. You said the first thing is you need to know where you're starting from. What do we mean by that?
Well, what we see in practice is that a lot of DevOps teams actually start from what we call journey number one, and journey number one is where we start with an agile development team, and we start adding operations people to it. And probably, in our we did some research last year, and probably somewhere approaching 50 to 60% of all DevOps initiatives start in this way. But you've also got DevOps initiatives that start from application operations, and we add some development capacity to those journeys, or to those teams, and create DevOps teams from that direction. And again, in the infrastructure world, we're seeing that there are kind of platforms teams that are being developed that really focus on creating standardized infrastructure platforms on which these application teams can work. So doing infrastructure as code and these kind of things. And then there's that last journey, which is about the application teams taking more and more responsibility for the entire stack, the entire technology stack, and using the self-service portals that are given to them by platform teams, and really eating up more and more of the responsibility for the service entirely.
Yeah, and this is also where all things cloud technology will probably help by lowering that red dotted line and making sure that those teams above take on more responsibility. And what you told is absolutely recognizable, Niels. I mean, 75% of people we did a survey saying, well, we're on journey one. And one of the most visible ones for me was with a telecom enterprise within Europe. And they told us they had 3 large programs to change their business, and they were not happy with the way it was going. And then they decided at the board level that they would go down the agile DevOps route. And on Friday, in a given week, they had 3 large programs. And on Monday after the weekend, they had 21 agile teams. A major transition made. And then about 12 months later, those agile teams were eating up more of the stack and going more about DevOps teams, autonomous and things like that. It was a really successful transition. But if you ask them about the cost of the business case of DevOps, they will totally recognize it. Absolutely.
Yeah. And obviously the thing is with the starting point is the movement you make is slightly different. I mean, when your starting point is a team which is well versed in agile, and so is doing daily stand-ups, doing working with the product owner, working with sprints. If you've got a team like that and you then add operations capacity to that team, there's this huge culture shock that happens. Because the operations people tend not to be working in this kind of way, and the same happens when you start from an operations side and you start adding development people. Again, you create this kind of culture shock that you need to prepare the people for properly and make sure that they know what's going to happen, and that they understand the respective ways of working.
So they don't even know that they're on a journey. So I was coaching this technical application management team, and they were on their own journey. They were actually talking about eating up and adding different kinds of roles and responsibilities to their own team. And then one of the managers of the team said, well, guys, we've got this agile teams in place, and they want to move DevOps. So they want one team wants one of us to be dedicated, incorporated within this new team according to DevOps principles. And 20 engineers looked at him and said, we're not going to do that.
No way.
We're going to do the lousy jobs, and we're not going to do the cool development stuff. And they were totally not into it. And yet they were on their own DevOps journey without knowing it.
Yeah, I recognize that, and you see that there's often in previously siloed organizations that sometimes the application, the development people and the operations people may even have a dislike for one another because of how they've been steered in the past, and the dev people are responsible for providing rubbishy code that we have to put into production, and the dev people kind of think operations are only slow because they're always saying that they can't take things into production, so, and then you bring them together and there's this kind of, okay, we need to be buddies now, we're on the same side, we're on the same team.
I mean, this is obviously this is the first point you mentioned. What is your starting point? So it's real good to recognize these journeys within your own organization. But what about the other 2 points? Because you mentioned we need to have
before we go into the next 2 points, let's see if where other people are planning to start. Alex, can you fire up the poll?
Yes, sir. And with this poll, guys, so we'd like to see maybe where you started your transformation, whether it be with application development, application operations, infrastructure development, or infrastructure operations. I think this would be interesting, a little conversation piece here. Currently have 23% votes in. It's going up. We'll allow about 10 more seconds for them to come in.
It could be interesting to correlate this with whether or not there is a business case and we're tracking it or not.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we can't do that, but it would be nice.
All right, and I'm going to close the poll now. And need to share it. Now I need to share the results on the screen. That would help. Okay. Looks like most haven't started, but a little bit telling here, guys, that most of them started with application operations if they have.
Yeah. Okay, that's an interesting development because we tend to see that as we both said, Frederick and I both said, we see a lot of movement from application development into DevOps, but our attendees are obviously more from the application ops side, which is very interesting.
Yeah, that'd be some interesting feedback to get as well.
Okay. Well, thank you for that.
Yep.
Yeah, just to get back to your...
Yeah, Niels. I think we lost Niels for a bit, but usually he turns up after a couple of seconds.
It's strange how it correlated to me pressing that button to stop sharing the results. All right, you guys are up.
Am I back online?
Speed it up a little because we're approaching 5:30 real quick. So what about the plan? What's this got to do with making sure we reap the benefits and not too much the cost of DevOps?
Yeah, what we notice is when you go into a DevOps plan, one of the things that you really need to look at is you've got to understand where you're starting, so you need an analyze phase. And what we've found is that one of the key things that you then need is a design phase. You need a step that you're actually designing the organization. What's it going to look like? Where do I need additional governance? Where do I...
Yeah, I think we lost Niels for a bit, but if I'm right, he was telling about the analyze phase, making sure what kind of journey you're on, what kind of journeys are recognizable in your organization. And then in the design phase, it's not like a restructuring of the organization, but you need to make sure that you choose the right value streams and the people you need within that value stream to support it autonomously, and make sure that all the different skills and knowledge are combined, preferably in one team. Could be a virtual team, to make sure that they can support that value stream. And then you get on to the integrate phase, and you need to make sure that these different kind of roles from development and operations and security and business all really start working together as a group of people, as a team, towards that common goal. And then if you do that in the integrate phase, then slowly you can move to the performing and the high performing phase. And one of the things this slide is telling us, it's not a big bang, right? I mean, you do it with a value stream usually at the time, and a value stream should be something that is recognizable from a business perspective. And usually you go with a pilot, and then you've got what we call different waves to slowly make sure that the rest of the enterprise, the organization, comes on board.
Yeah, exactly. I think one of the key things is that each wave must be kind of consistent in the way it's structured. So we'd want the services for particular customers to be together in a particular wave, so that we don't get a kind of disjointed way of supporting customers. And let's not forget that there is a vital aspect of every every transformation that you're doing, and that has to do with leadership and education and alignment generally. Making sure you've got the right KPIs in place, that you're managing your services along the same performance indicators, and I think getting this plan consistent is very important. And as I said, the design phase is one of the starting points to make sure that happens correctly.
Yeah, and basically it sort of looked like a waterfall, Niels, but that's not what we're trying to explain, right?
No. What you see is that there's
12 months of designing a DevOps organization before we start.
Yeah. It's something that kind of happens in iterations, because as you learn, as you go through your pilots and your wave 1 and 2, you really start to sharpen up your design as well, and get a better understanding of what you need to be doing. And as you're going along there, you need to understand your progress. And we like to use what's called the DevOps integration model, and it's a model that we piloted with a large bank, the ING bank in the Netherlands, and they're using it to actually manage their entire DevOps, agile DevOps transition. And finding it very, very useful. Each of the teams can assess themselves on all the aspects that they need to have sorted out, and can help them each other to really move towards being a high-performing DevOps team.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that you need all these aspects that are on this this slide in one way or another. Information to DevOps will have impact on it. Whether it be your level of performance, or your motivation of your people, all this kind of stuff plays a role to get to these fabulous State of DevOps report performance numbers.
Yeah, and I think the important thing to realize is that automation is approximately 1/5 of what you need to really be successful with DevOps.
Yeah. It's not 95% as some of the organizations we work with tend to believe before we start. Okay. But nevertheless, automation is a major element and a major contributor to getting to a high-performance IT. So it's not to be underestimated. But Niels, we've got one more thing, and it's 5:30. So what about limiting the cost of the business case?
Yeah, it's about leadership. We can be quite short about that. The disruption, the cost, the mistakes, the annoyed customers, all that, the uncertainty that there is, all of these things can be remedied by making sure that you have your leadership well trained with a clear vision of where they want to go to with their organization. And that they're actually in there getting involved with the teams and really understanding what challenges they're coming up against. And one of the things I've noticed with a lot of CIOs, IT managers, is that they're uncertain about what question do I need to ask. How do I know whether I'm doing the right thing, making the right decisions? And actually, it's quite a simple one. If the decision you take helps the organization to deliver services in more flow, with more flow and better flow, then you're doing the right thing. So the choice now to do something may increase flow, and then in a few months' time you may choose to do something else which will increase flow more. But it's always about reviewing your choices and really looking at making sure that teams kind of flow their services to customers as in the best way possible. And that's really the decision making that needs to happen throughout the organization, starting with leadership.
And still, people will make mistakes, even if they think they make a decision that will increase flow. And if that has been made, the question is not who to blame. The question is quite simple. What did you do? What did you learn? And what are you going to try next? What's your next experiment going to be to solve this problem, to increase flow?
Exactly.
That kind of behavior is key to making sure that your people are not scared of disruption, are eager to make mistakes, to fail fast and learn even faster, because that's the only way to get to the left side of the business case and reap the benefits that we're all trying to achieve.
Yeah, exactly. So,
well, basically, this was the end of this webinar, this last one on leadership. And like I said, if this is the first webinar you're joining, it could also be the first, no problem. Just make sure that after this you get a hold of the recordings of the other three and have a look and listen to them as well. So Niels, finally, key takeaways. What, in your opinion, should be the key takeaway from this webinar, or maybe this whole series?
Yeah, well, what's I would say, really the focus on flow, and what that means is understand your processes, particularly that process from development to production and all the steps in between. Really get that nailed. Make sure that people understand fully what that process is all about and what it needs to be efficient. So take out the wasteful steps, take out the bits that don't add value, and really bring all of the activities as close as possible together, and really ensure that as a team of a multi-skilled team of IT technicians covering the whole flow can actually influence the way that process runs, and really this is where you'll have teams who are going to be working on this, and you'll have leadership who really are focused on helping those teams to make sure that happens.
Yeah, and that would be my key takeaway for the leadership. Get on board, get on the table, take responsibility, take ownership, and by doing that, create great teams. Because the team will be well, I think it's one of the most underestimated competitive advantages that are present.
It's the 1-2 hour kind of executive overview of DevOps is not enough. It's not enough to be successful in this societal change that is happening now, that is going through IT organizations. You need to get stuck in a whole lot more.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be difficult, and if it's hard, do it more often. And this is hard, so get going, start learning. In due time, you will be good at it, and that's what you need. All right.
Okay.
Well,
that was it. Sorry, we went over time. Apologies.
Hey, we did, but a lot of great content, and thank you both for contributing to a great series that we had here. So we did have a few questions come in during the presentation. I think this one is relating to the quadrant slide that you had up, Niels, where that kind of outlined where the journeys came from. This person is looking for clarification on what ASL and BISL means.
Yeah, ASL is a variation of ITIL called Application Services Library, and is a kind of a variant that gets used in application development environment. BISL is more the Business Information Services library, which is more on the so the interaction between business and IT, and making sure that say our business analysis and business value optimization gets done properly.
Okay, and the other question that we had here is, just to clarify. Do you mean by focus on flows, do you mean a smooth interaction or synergy between Dev and Ops? Is that what you're referring to?
Well, yes, but preferably it's a synergy. It's a flow of a value stream that goes through both Dev and Ops, but as one. So we're looking to have Dev and Ops as a single team, so that we can shorten that distance between the question that the customer wants or asks for, the functionality, the new functionality they're looking for, and the creation of that value. And that time needs to be as short as possible, whether it's solving an incident to make sure that the server or provide new functionality, or providing advice to customers about what they can do with their service. Either way, whatever happens, we're looking for a short lead time between question from the customer and delivery by IT.
Yeah, not only for creating value, but information, feedback. It should all flow with all involved in creating the output of the value stream. And the funny thing is, I'm looking at the questions. This question was from Claudia, and she says that you already answered the question during the webinar, which she thinks is great. But I think flow is such an important aspect of what we're trying to achieve. We can't answer this question enough, even if we already did so.
And the thing I always like to say about DevOps, DevOps is the ultimate search for flow within IT. That's basically what we're doing. So whenever you talk DevOps, it's the ultimate search for flow within IT, using any method or capability that you have, whether it's organization, performance, process, automation, you name it, behavior and attitude. We use it to create that flow within IT.
If you want to educate yourself on DevOps, any training that focuses on flow will help. It should be useful. Okay?
All right.
And having said that, Alex, you want to take over?
Yeah, absolutely. Just to wrap up with everything today, guys, thank you for your interest in DevOps. Thank you for joining our webinar series. It was great to interact with you all. So Quint, the organization that we're a part of, yes, we can help your organization with the organizational change, making sure your processes and everything are right. But the second part of that as well is making sure that you and your people are also trained as well. Quint is a forerunning member of DASA, the DevOps Agile Skills Association. I'm sorry for the tongue twister there. It is a universal qualification program for DevOps and Agile. As you can see over there on the right, there is a curriculum and a proficiency sort of ladder that you have there for DevOps, just like you could for anything like ITIL and other certifications that you might be aware of. Quint is can help your organization get trained and get these certifications for your people as well. And one of the last things I also do want to touch on is our attendance at the DevOps Enterprise Conference next month. We've pressed on it the last couple webinars, but this is a really, really great event. If your organization is interested in moving to DevOps, going to DevOps, and you want to hear some excellent stories from some of the industry leaders all there in Silicon Valley, the Netflixes, the Walt Disneys of the world, those guys are all there. They're going to be there sharing their stories, and it's a very large event. And we had a great time at it last year. If you'd like to meet Niels will be there himself. He'd be happy to meet you in person, and he'll be checking it out for the very first time. And I know he's excited to do so. So now just to leave you guys. I'm sorry, Niels, you said what?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Agree more.
Oh, yeah. And just to leave you with some of our contact information, we're active on social media on just about every single network. So if you follow us on one of those, you can get releases to our latest white papers, blog posts, and also announcements for other webinars and webinar series that we have in the future. And feel free to reach out to us directly. I know Niels, Frederick, and Alex Van Kampen, who was featured on our webinar series as well, would love to cover some of these topics with you. And, it's what they do. It's what they have a passion for. And reach out if you have any questions whatsoever. Thanks again, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are around the world. Have a good one.